Hey guys, I'm going to shoot a quick video of the Mark IV 454, the engine that I lost the cam and the lifters in. I'm getting ready to take the heads to the machinist, but I didn't want to until I went through them and kind of assessed what was going on myself. And I'm glad I did that because I've discovered quite a bit. All of the exhaust valves, the stems had rust forming in them, and even one or two of the intakes. This is going to be cylinder number 1, so the number 1 intake had a little bit, and the number 7. Otherwise, on the bank number 2, it was only the exhaust valves that were problematic. But where I'm going this is, there's been, I think where this started taking place is there's water infiltration from the intake. And if you know this about the intakes, they have a low point. They have a very low point. It's, you know, right here. I'm sorry, I didn't have the camera in place. It's right here, and then obviously right along here. Anything that goes in that intake, whether it's water, whether it's fuel, flooding from the carburetor, it's going to go to this lowest point, and it's going to sit down here in this trough. And in other words, if you were to pour fluid in here, it's not just going to pour right into the cylinders. It goes down here and it will probably puddle for maybe a ½ inch deep or so. And based on the forensics, the number 4, which is the cylinder that ate the lifter so bad, it was number 4. And then I'm going to go on and say number 6. So basically it's 1, 7, 4, and 6. Those are the ports that are connected to the lowest point. And it's unbelievably telling that all of the other ports are relatively clean. I hope you can see this from the lighting, but they're very clean. The others, however, have a hell of a lot of rust in them. And I'll turn it around. What you're going to find is that, see, number 1 has rust in it. I'm fighting the light. And then number 7, you can see has rust. I think that's a little bit better. Number 5 looks good. See, number 3 looks good, nice and clean. And then number 1 is rusty. So water went in from the intake. And you can see it right here where it puddled a little bit right here. This is really telling right here. The large bore in the back of the carb, which, see, that's the higher plane right there, and this goes to the lower plane. Very little rust right here, and almost none right here, but it begins to really show itself here, and then it's really prevalent in that board. So on that note, and then what's strange, you go to bank number 2. Here's the number 2 cylinder. See how it's black. You get to 4 and 6, and there's rust where it was spraying the water through the whole system. Number 8's not too bad. Remember, that's a high point in the intake. This is also very, very telling right here. I think this is important before I forget this. This clearly shows this is like where the intake would sit, and you know, this is not completely sealed off, and anything that gets in here, dirt, debris, etc., it's gonna tell. Typically when you have a really old engine, you know, it'll be full of like grime and road film and crap like that. But as you can see, this has had water in it, and it's showing a lot of rust. What's this? Is 2. So here's 2 looks pretty good. So it's running very rich. There's problems with the carburetor as well, but obviously number 4 and number 6 has a little. Number 4 has the most rust in it. Number 8 just a little. Then you get over to the bank 1. I'm sorry about the camera work, but it's hell trying to do this by yourself. These things are heavy as hell. Here's number one, and I think a lot of this also, see, number one, the way the engine sits in the boat, number one and number two cylinder are the ones that catch any gravitational flow. In other words, if you start pouring something into this engine, it's going to go to number one first, because number one is the lowest, it's part of the lowest part of the valley, plus the engine is on an angle, because see, the engine is backwards in the boat. The front of the engine points down. So obviously when you look at number one, it's just seriously contaminated from rust, and I'm talking about the intake. And then if you look at number 3 and 5, which are high points in the intake, see how they're clean. You get to number 7, remember, number 7 is a low point, and look at this, number 7's got the rust in it. So this is, I mean, from a forensic standpoint, I couldn't be any more confident about a failure and what caused it. This was not the exhaust manifolds. The exhaust manifolds are brand new, and I'm just really damn good at putting them together. I know how critical they are to assemble them properly. Brand new gaskets, torqued properly, you name it. So this is not moisture, this is not water, this is not condensation coming in from the exhaust system and stuff like that. This hell, it almost looks like it was running. I got a jet coming, so I may have to pause for a minute, but it almost looks like the engine was running and someone sprayed it with a hose. Yep, that's really cool until you see about 150 of them a day for about a year and a half straight. It gets old. Anyway, I'm taking this stuff to the machinist and try to put it back together properly. And if you look at my video too for this project, there was a day when I walked up and there were, if I'm not careful, I'm going to drop this. There was a ton of water puddling around this intake, and obviously you can see right there where it was troughing down in there. Didn't get into the engine. The oil was really good, but it's serious. It's very serious, and that's the kind of stuff that happens when I don't know, was it sabotage? Shit, somebody, I don't know, it almost looks like somebody took a water hose and sprayed it full of water. But I really think it was either a leaky deck on the back of the boat, or either it was a freak 5-minute rainstorm that nobody was aware of and water dumped into the carb. Alright, I know it's a long video and I apologize, but I think it's pretty critical because it's turning into a pretty serious situation, and I'm at a point where I'm working for free and I don't really see the reasoning for it anymore. Anyway, thanks for stopping in.